rest for the weary, David.
Nope. Never.
Never. Or it's the wicked. No rest for the wicked.
The cocktails will only come out at Starmus by about 11 p.m., I think.
That's right.
But not on the Star Party night, though, of course.
Of course.
Oh, did I mention, Dave, to you when we chatted that apparently there is a Star Party on the evening of the 10th when we're in the town doing our 2 talks.
Oh, yes, you did mention that. Yeah.
So I mentioned, I called Scott and told him also.
Yeah.
And I called Levin, and he's still trying to get that thing figured out. When I told him that 2,000 people would be there, I think he fell over.
Yeah,
Not sure about that.
we'll figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
I've done Star Parties with 2,000 people.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Griffith Park one time, I did a Star Party with, I just had Saturn in the eyepiece, but there were hundreds of people, going into line. So I think I stopped counting after 500.
Wow.
And Harold Locke is chatting with us here. Very nice.
What are we looking at or waiting for?
Just letting people get seated here.
Just the countdown of the video.
Just a countdown.
Yeah.
Yep. If you're ready to go, we'll go right now. Give the word.
Wait, what video is this?
This one? This is the one that hypnotizes you.
Apparently.
That's right. I give you subliminal messages.
This is the last thing you're going to see, Michael, before you go through the event horizon. And it's going to be spinning like that, too.
It's going to be spinning
I feel like
that.
I'm on the other side trying to get out.
No cold beers, nothing. It's just this.
And everyone will be saying, look, you're much longer and redder, but you're not disappearing yet.
That's what she said.
Well, let's go ahead and get started here. Here we go.
The Curiosity rover set out to answer a big question. Could Mars have supported ancient life? Now we know the answer, but there's still so much more to learn.
To help NASA's Curiosity rover safely explore the surface of Mars, engineers here on Earth use a nearly identical sibling named Maggie. This full-scale engineering model helps the team practice operations in the Mars yard at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I'm Raquel Villanueva, here with Curiosity Deputy Project Scientist Abigail Freeman. Her team is celebrating their 10th year on the Red Planet. Where has the rover traveled to in the past decade?
Well, we've spent the last basically 10 years Martian mountain climbing. Curiosity landed at the base of a big mountain named Mount Sharp that is made of layers of rocks. So we're climbing the mountain to give us a snapshot of Martian history. We've driven about 17.5 miles, and more impressively, we've climbed over 2,000 feet in elevation up the mountain. We're all the way up in these hills now. It's pretty spectacular.
With all that climbing, how is Curiosity doing?
Pretty good, actually. All of our science instruments are working just about as good as they did when we landed. We have nearly our full capabilities. The arm and the drill and the rover, they're a little bit arthritic, so we have to be a little bit gentle when we use them, and our wheels are a little bit beat up. The wheels on Maggie look great, but we have some test wheels that we've really destroyed. The wheels on the rover are somewhere between these two. You know, we just drilled our 35th sample the other week, so still doing amazing science.
And how do you decide where the rover is going to go? Do you work with other NASA missions?
You know, the data from the Mars orbiters have been really helpful. The spectrometers, that's the kind of instrument on Odyssey and Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, have told us where the interesting minerals are and where the best places to go to look at changing environments are. And then in particular, the cameras on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, they're so good and they're so helpful at allowing us to find the safest way that we can climb this mountain.
What would you say is the biggest discovery your team has made?
You know, Curiosity was sent to Mars in order to answer a really big question. Did Mars have all of the ingredients that we know life needed? And 10 years later, not only have we given that answer a definitive yes, but we've also seen that those ingredients were around for tens of millions of years.
And what's next for Curiosity?
We can see from orbit that we're getting to a place in the mountain that likely records a pretty dramatic change in the sorts of environments that were around. You know, the lakes that once filled Gale started to dry out, and we're getting to that period in time. So we're really interested in answering how long did these habitable environments persist as Mars and Gale Crater went through these pretty big climate changes. I just can't wait to see what's next. We've seen hints that the rocks are going to be very different very soon. And so I'm really curious what we're going to find.
Well, that is an exciting new chapter for you, and congratulations on 10 years. Thanks, Abigail.
Thanks so much.
To get the latest updates, follow @NASAJPL and @NASA Mars on social media, or take a deeper dive on the mission websites at mars.nasa.gov.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts here with David Eicher and Michael Bakich from Astronomy Magazine. And we're here today to talk about Starmus 6. We're all kind of packing our bags right now. We're getting ready to head on that long flight over to Armenia. We are getting new information almost daily about what's happening as far as talks and special events that are happening at Starmus. And so the whole thing kind of kicks off a little bit early, a few days earlier than the September 5th through 10th advertised segment for Starmus, with an astrophotography class that's being headed up by Michael Bakich. So Michael, you want to talk a little bit about the astrophotography class and what people can expect there?
Yeah, it's a 3-day school, really, where we have lectures by, actually a set of 4 lectures by 2 well-regarded astro imagers. Ocean Zakarian is one, and the other is Christopher Go, really dedicated planetary imager from the Philippines. And they're going to show people that are signed up for the astrophotography school how to do what they do. In between those lectures will be lectures by you, Scott, and you, Dave, and I'll do a kickoff lecture to talk about what Astronomy Magazine wants and what we don't want as far as images coming into the magazine. So it's going to be 3 pretty intense days of in-class learning, and then each night, and hopefully it will be clear, it's a good time to do this in Armenia. Each night we'll actually take some of Scott's telescopes and equipment out and practice some of what we learned in the class under the stars. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and people are getting pretty jazzed about it.
Right. Yeah. And so this whole this is the 6th Starmus event, and being that neither Michael or I have been to Starmus, I've only seen it on YouTube, and I mean, it seems so exciting with all the physicists, astrophysicists, rock stars that are going to be there. How did it all get started, David?
It got started a couple of years before 2010, when the first conference happened. And it was really, it grew out of Brian May's friendship with Garrick Israelian. Brian May, you might have heard of him. He's a guitarist, and he ditched out of a very serious PhD program that he was in for University College London. He was studying the dust in the solar system, what we call the zodiacal dust, for his PhD, and nearly finished it. And then he left that to join this band Queen, which worked out pretty well in the end. But he went back after 35 years to finish his PhD. And one of the people he was working with was this fellow Garrick Israelian, who is an astronomer in the Canary Islands and is of Armenian heritage and birth. And he is also a music fan and is a musician. And so they kind of struck out on a great friendship, and decided that we should have this science festival to popularize astronomy and other sciences. And as we say, you got to use both halves of your brain. So the serious astronomy and analytical thinking in science is one part, but you also have to have some fun and rock and roll. And that's why it's stars and music, Starmus. And so I got involved after the first Starmus, and they got to know me, and they put me on this board somehow. And so I'm on the board of directors along with them, and with some other people who include Richard Dawkins and Peter Gabriel and Jill Tarter and Bob Williams, who's the director of the Space Telescope Science Institute, and Tony Fidel, who's the co-inventor of the iPhone and the inventor of the iPod, who is a fellow who has been an engineer and one of the officers at Apple. So the board has steered this to be a repeating festival. Generally, it's been every couple of years, and we have an amazing lineup, which when you'd like me to, I'll go through some of the talks of astronauts, of Nobel Prize laureates, of musicians, of entertainers, of even journalists and popularizers like we are. And it's an incredible lineup where you can hear these speakers, many of them over 5 days here. And we also have a couple of concerts that we will do as well. And we'll also be awarding the Stephen Hawking Medal. Stephen Hawking was on our board of advisors with us as well, the great Stephen Hawking. We lost him, as you know, a couple of years ago now, but we will give out medals to celebrate achievements in popularizing science in Stephen's name as well. So it's going to be a tremendous week, and you really can't get this kind of an experience and close to speakers rubbing shoulders with some of the elite minds in science and in entertainment like you can at the Starmus Festival. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, it's very exciting. When I was looking at, what Starmus is all about. They say it's a global festival of science, communication, and art that brings together the most brilliant minds on the planet. Now, the idea of music and astronomy and science is not a new one. I mean, it goes way back, right?
Well, some of the famous astronomers of yesteryear, William Herschel springs to mind immediately, were musicians as well. And there's something in the order of studying the universe, of planetary motions, that has always been associated with music. Even Johannes Kepler figuring out the rhythms of of planetary motions in our solar system, there's always been a close adherence to classical music in that case as well. And in our time, rock and roll and music as well. And nothing signifies that better than one of our leaders and one of the founders of Starmus with Brian May. For example, his song 39, classic Queen song 39, that was famously on the great Night at the Opera album, along with Bohemian Rhapsody, is about traveling at very high velocity and relativistic travel. So there's a lot of astronomy and cosmology that has been worked into even modern music like rock and roll in our time.
Wow. Okay. So that is you know, when I think of you know, the inspiration that music, and you can get inspiration in both ways, from music, from science, from maybe it takes your mind to another place that is somehow unique. Okay. I mean, do you think that this is the primary message of Starmus, to try to invoke that kind of state of mind? I mean, is it, or is it just fun? Is it just a heck of a lot of fun to hang out with rock stars or is the sheer enjoyment and the thrill of this what is something that can take you to a next level in thinking?
Well, it is fun to hang out with rock stars, to be honest. But I think you're right. I mean, I think it is about, a whole human being, a whole humanity of, we're in a golden age, as we've talked about before, of an incredible pace of astronomical discovery.
Right.
It's way beyond any other time in human history, what we're understanding and discovering now, the pace of our discovery about how the universe works and how we got here. But, I think the music and sharing our feelings about all of this and what it means to us as humans, which is what Starmus is all about, really lets us reflect on what we're doing here on one little planet in a galaxy that has 400 billion star systems and in a universe of at least 100 billion galaxies. And it gives us a lot of sort of context together. And the music is sort of celebrating that part of humanity as well, that we can share and feel good with each other.
Right. Yeah, because I know we've all experienced this when we go to, if we're doing astronomy outreach activities or whatever, and we're trying to tell people the concepts of distance and time and these proportions that are out there, and they suddenly become awash with, like, they're almost like numb. They're like going, I don't even know how to think about like stuff like this, so I'm kind of curious if if music somehow, or the stories that are intertwined with music somehow can bring us to a place where we're more accepting of what we might think of as the infinite, or these giant concepts. I'm kind of curious about that. I'm now more comfortable than I was when I first started practicing amateur astronomy and really learning about, what a light year was, and just how far back into time you could look, and, how big things were. It literally blew my mind, but I think that, having something where you can follow the rhythms, and you can, sometimes music's the lyrics are, they're like painting something, even sometimes into the abstract, Yeah.
So, I think you're right, Scott. And I think that the music is one way that emotionally we can feel this stuff all together.
Yeah.
And how amazing it is. If we know the universe is 93 billion light years across in diameter, if we know that it's 13.8 billion years old, if we know that we have to travel for 100,000 years as fast as we can imagine traveling to get to the nearest star. Those are pretty overwhelming things to
Right.
our little human minds. But I think that music and art really help us to embrace those things and to feel good about why we're here and what that all means to us. Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Well, I think I'm going to get a giant dose of it when I go to Starmus. So
Oh, no
I'm,
question.
I'm,
Yeah,
I'm very, very curious about this. So
you absolutely
maybe
will.
there's something called a Starmus effect. I don't know, but
Yeah. If you'll permit me, Scott, let me just
Sure.
quickly read through. And
Okay.
this is just a small, tiny selection of the speakers who will be here this time. There'll be Tony Fidel. I mentioned the inventor of the iPod, talking about the synergies between Earth and space. Brian Greene talking about quantum computing. Emmanuel Charpentier talking about gene therapy. You might have heard of her work with the Nobel Prize on the so-called CRISPR technology. We will have Lou Friedman from the Planetary Society, Michel Mayor, one of the premier discoverers of exoplanets and the first exoplanet. David Grinspoon talking about Venus, Earth, and Mars. Though it's the planetary science, cosmology, astrophysics, and other sciences as well, biology and chemistry, and all the rest of them really. We'll have Kip Thorne talking about black holes and wormholes and the warped side of the universe. Mark Boslow on the impacts that we sometimes get from near Earth or more distant asteroids. Alfred McEwen, our theme is 50 years ago to the first two, one Soviet, one American Mars probe. He'll be talking about planetary science. Our pal Charlie Duke talking about walking on the moon and what it's like, and if to hear an Apollo astronaut firsthand tell you what it was like to walk around and drive around on the moon is pretty special. Chris Hadfield, the famous astronaut, talking about living and walking in space. Jill Tarter, the SETI pioneer, talking about extraterrestrial life in the universe. George Smoot, the Nobel Prize winner, the origin of the universe and the Big Bang. Charlie Bolden, the NASA administrator. So it just goes on and on and on. That's just a small selection. There are many, many, many more speakers. So there's nothing like this group of people at any other place. And it's just one exciting lecture after another.
That's amazing. David, being that this will be your fifth one, right? That
Yes.
You've done. So what is your takeaway? Or maybe how do you see this affecting the audience that experiences Starmus?
Well, the audience, it's kind of, you'll probably see this, guys, firsthand. They'll come up and they'll sort of gush, I can't, I mean, this is an audience of people who love science and they love astronomy, space, and technology. And, to get this close and to hear these people up front speaking about these things is kind of people get emotional about it, even,
Absolutely.
to be there and to hear it. And I got emotional when I had to give my first lecture at Starmus, and sitting down in front of a festival hallway with his nurses in the first row right in front of me was Stephen Hawking.
Oh my
And
God.
to lecture for an hour with Stephen Hawking right in front of you, nothing has ever scared me since that day, ever again. Okay.
Right.
That was being scared straight. Okay.
Straight up.
But
I can
it's
only
amazing.
imagine.
In the audience, you're just sort of basking in these realizations that, understanding the world around you like you didn't quite understand it before going through this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You've got to come
really
out changed, I would think. So
Indeed. I mean, it's almost, you give sort of a rebirth of if you will permit the term, of understanding your place in the cosmos and what it's all about, and how these great scientists and explorers work together. It's really remarkable and eye-opening, and sort of lifts your spirits, for another couple of years, if you will.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you know, I just, you could take almost any one of those people, and it would be an amazing experience just to sit down and listen to them, but to have all of those people together like that, and interacting with each other and hanging out with them, at the, whatever, relaxed time or parties that might be after the talks, has just got to be really amazing. And the brain power could probably light up all of Armenia, I would think.
It really could. It's really incredible. And then we will have two different concerts. We'll have an introductory concert along with our Stephen Hawking Medal Awards that will feature the Armenian National Orchestra in conjunction with other artists, including Brian May of Queen. We will have a Sonic Universe concert with Brian and with others at the end of the show as well, that will also include Rick Wakeman, who is a deep supporter of Starmus, who's the greatest keyboardist in the history of rock, with Yes and with all the other things that he's done. And of course, Peter Gabriel, we expect will be there, who's on our board as well. So it's quite, you're seeing a sort of a very high level couple of rock concerts in an auditorium, as well as all of this stuff. There's really nothing that measures up to this in my book. It's really quite.
Yeah, I would think that, maybe even after I come back, and we do a wrap up of what Starmus is, I'm probably still going to be searching for the words, to express what my feeling and the impact for myself to be there, so I can say that, Explore Scientific is very honored to be at Starmus, and to be asked to do the Star Party segments that's going to happen. We've got, from what I understand, we've got two major nights. One of them is going to be at the Temple of Garni, which is a 1st century AD pagan temple, and
unbelievable setting. The
backdrop alone is just
and Scott,
so cool.
You've engineered this. This is the first Star Party ever to be held in conjunction with Starmus. So you and Explore Scientific are pioneering this whole effort, and we expect there'll be several thousand people at the Star Party. It's going to be an amazing thing, and we'll have a whole battery of targets from the moon and Jupiter and Neptune, and all the way out to some of those, deep sky objects as well, star clusters and double stars, and maybe even out to the Andromeda galaxy. So it's going to be very exciting, and we'll have, a dozen or so telescopes there as well, Explore Scientific telescopes, and nothing like this has ever been done, let alone at an ancient temple as the drop. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. If it were a script, they'd throw this thing out, because this could never happen this way, they'd say.
Yeah, that's right. So will there also, there's some things I still don't know about. Will there be, do you think there'll be live music at the Star Parties themselves?
There will be music at the Star Parties. It will not be, blaringly loud. It will be
like ambient,
a little more like background music, so people can enjoy the observing. And now the two concerts, they're going to be loud. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
but the music, I think, will allow us to enjoy a Star Party, and showing to them. There'll be many people who probably are going to get their first view through a through a telescope at the moon, and there'll be Charlie Duke walking around, who walked up there, who if you block with your thumb held out, you can block out Earth, the moon, and as they did with Earth coming back, in the Apollo capsules. So it'll be a very dramatic thing to be in that setting and with someone like one of the moonwalkers with us.
Right. Yeah. And some of the greatest minds in the world. The fact that Kip Thorne is going to be there, I have to confess, I did meet him in Chile at the last eclipse that was down there. I think that was 2019. And, Kip Thorne standing there. And so I just go up and just introduce myself. He is so nice, then these butterflies started happening because I go, oh my God, this is really Kip Thorne here, right? And
this is one of the smartest people on the planet, by the way, I'm talking to. Yeah.
Right. And so I started stammering, and I started, I really got this kind of celebrity shock feeling, and he I know did not get that at all,
Well, how do you know that?
Well, he just seemed so humble, and he was hanging out in the airport like anybody else would, and he didn't have like bodyguards, but it's like I don't think that no insurance company would be able to insure his brain. I mean, how do you do that? So
he's a very, very nice guy. And,
very nice guy. Exactly.
His book Black Holes and Time Warps, one of the all-time classics. And we can get into a conversation with Kip about traveling through a black hole and what would happen to you. Yeah.
That's cool.
He's the guy who literally wrote the book on it. Yeah.
Michael, you've been quiet during this whole period here. What do you hope to experience at Starmus?
This is a whole new audience. When I've, Dave's worked for Astronomy magazine since the early 1800s.
Since the Madison administration. Yes.
I have been there now, actually there and now retired for a couple decades. This is a whole new audience. This isn't our normal English-speaking, U.S., Great Britain, Australia audience. These are people who may not have been exposed to much astronomy in their lives, but something is drawing them to Starmus, and I think it's, of course, the lure of the science that's going to be there. And I just hope to spread our love of astronomy and a little bit of knowledge to them. So I think we're going to have the opportunity, especially as we talked about, there'll be at least 2 star parties where they're expecting a minimum of a couple thousand people and maybe more. So we will have an opportunity to show some of the wonders of the universe to people who never have seen them.
Well, hopefully I don't get like calluses on my hand from adjusting the focuser or something. So, but I know it's going to be a blast. And, of course, I love to do astronomy outreach. I love to show people their first views through a telescope. And I think we're going to get a lot of that at this particular event. Of course, there's going to be very experienced people there. I think also the local astronomy club in Yerevan is going to be joining us as well to help out. And I've heard that they have like up to 30 volunteers that are going to be helping us with the star party. So we have plenty of help, and I just can't wait for it all to happen. So I think we're all leaving on Monday to fly out there. We went and had this little special segment to talk about Starmus before we head out. And I know that there's a lot of people who are not going to Starmus because of either the distance or COVID fears or whatever, and I respect all those things, of course. It is a very special thing. But Starmus did lower their entry price considerably, right? I mean, didn't the ticket price used to be kind of up there?
This is very, very cheap. And, the president of Armenia is a physicist.
Wow.
Think of that, a politician who's a physicist, who can lead a country. I don't know that the United States is quite there yet, but think of the analytical capability of a country. So they are providing a great deal of support for this rendition of Starmus,
Mm-hmm.
and that has enabled Garrick Israelian, our leader and director and co-founder, to make the price very, very affordable, and thinking that a lot of students, among others, will come and join us for this incarnation.
Well, great. Well, any words of wisdom before we sign off here?
If you said, Scott, that you like astronomy outreach, this will be astronomy outreach on steroids.
And steroids turned up to 11, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, it's right on the Brian Zamp. It goes to 11. So I think it's going to be crazy busy, but I think we'll try to share a little bit of stuff as things are going on when we're there. We certainly will do a lot of sharing of images, of talks, of all kinds of things,
Right.
when we get back. Yeah.
Some of our audience is hoping that we'll share stuff on social media, and we'll certainly do that. If we're able to broadcast there, I can't guarantee that we can, but if we can, we will. And because we want you to understand how amazing the event's going to be, and why you should go next time. I believe that possibly it will happen again next year. So if you're not going this year, count on next year. And if it doesn't happen next year, go to the following year, because it will happen, again. I also, I'm looking at the audience here that's watching us, and Andrew Corkill, who's watching us, just got his Master Binocular Observer Award, which is kind of a hard one to get from the Astronomically. So congratulations to him. I also want to say that we will have our 103rd Global Star Party next Thursday night. So I kind of moved it ahead because I'm getting ready for Starmus, and I wanted to spend at least one nice weekend with my family, which I did. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. David and Michael, thank you for joining in with us today, and with our audience. And I think that's it. So keep looking up, guys. That's it.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys.
We'll see you in Yerevan.
Yerevan, that's right.